for the opportunity to answer all these questions. These exactly the topics that you mentioned are those that we believe that can come up within the context of a comprehensive dialogue with India. If we have a comprehensive dialogue, that means an all-encompassing dialogue. And that gives us an opportunity to discuss all each issues, at least bilaterally. As far as the question of Kashmir, given that you're an expert, you know Pakistan's long-standing position is in line with the UN Security Council resolutions and in accordance to international law. Only once we deliver the plebiscite to the people of Kashmir, the right to self-determination, would be our position. India would bring their position as part of a comprehensive dialogue. But I believe there are dueling reasons now that we must address the issue of Kashmir. If India thought that this was an internal issue, they have ensured that this never remains an internal issue. Not only because of the multilateral politics and the commitments to international law and what does the United Nations mean if we can decide that we're not going to apply whatever is inconvenient to us. Not least the promise that we in the international community has made to the people of Kashmir, not least because this is a legacy of partition left over by the colonial powers that still bleeds to this day, has led to wars in the past and is providing the groundwork for the wars between us, India and Pakistan, even to this day. As far as indigenous terrorism is a challenge within India, it has become a root cause to the indigenous terrorism that was demonstrated in this last terrorist attack, particularly post-2019, where the policies of the state have become even more aggressive, repressive, and suppressive. They've moved away from their domestic commitments to the people of Kashmir. In that circumstance, what you're doing is you're creating the perfect environment to breed indigenous terrorism, and that indigenous terrorism will challenge India in a way that no cross-border terrorism ever could. And instead of addressing this issue, we're ignoring the issue and making it worse. If we don't find a solution for Kashmir, and the situation on the ground continues to deteriorate, then the environment is created and the new youth in Kashmir will form the cannon fodder for the terrorist organizations of tomorrow that will continue to perpetuate these attacks. Before I go into the water, I'd like to sidestep onto the terrorist question. As far as what Pakistan has done, now the militant groups that exist on Pakistani soil are a result of the Cold War politics and the geopolitics of the 1980s. Every single group that you can name today, every single one, there's not one that's out of this orbit. Be it Al-Qaeda, be it the Taliban, be it these groups that are of concern to the Indian government. That's the groups of concern to the Indian government. All of them are a result, are the hangover, are the leftover elements of the Afghan jihad ecosystem in Afghan 1. That decision to set up this network of what was called at the time freedom fighters, who were dubbed at the time as the great mujahideen, fighting the moral war of the West against the evil Satan. Evil Satan then was the Soviet Union. These were the same people who were invited to the White House by Ronald Reagan, and he declared that these are the moral equivalent to our founding fathers. And Pakistan, well, at the time was under a dictatorship, and my mother, Bilawal Bhutto, was leading the resistance against the dictatorship. But even at that time, she wanted the Pakistani authorities and the international community that you're creating a Frankenstein monster that's going to come back and haunt us. And that Frankenstein monster came back and haunted the US at 9/11, well, the entire world. Pakistan is part of the international coalition, targeted Al-Qaeda, targeted the Taliban, well now the Taliban is off the list, God knows what the definition is over there, targeted other organizations, reoriented our entire infrastructure of our state to treat some groups which we previously considered as allies, as now terrorist organizations. That reorientation was a difficult and bloody process. The political leadership of the country across the board have now developed a consensus, but this consensus wasn't always there. We fought politically against these terrorists on the political battlefield by challenging them politically, and resulted in losing our lives, changing the state policy on the political front. The military leadership of Pakistan is not again the caricature that the world wants to paint of many, many generations ago, where there would have been conflict in this transition, where there would have been anti-Al-Qaeda as a result of 9/11 and their alliances in the world. But when you got down to the officers and the individuals who fought the wars alongside who used to be the Mujahideen, there may have been grey area. Now, the military leadership of Pakistan have come up through the ranks while combating these terrorists on the front lines. They fought them in Swat, they fought them in South Waziristan, they fought them in North Waziristan. They earned their honors in valor and in bravery while fighting these terrorists, and then got promoted to the current ranks that they are while they lead our armed forces. So, in that context, we fought the bloody war over what's left over from Afghan 1. The international community, through FATF, has only recently endorsed Pakistan's actions against the groups of concern to India. So we've lived up to international scrutiny of the FATF that endorsed Pakistan's actions against the LET and other groups, and have approved the actions that Pakistan has taken. And we've gone from the grey list to the white list because they believe that those actions are worth a violin or of significance. Now, so far, I've only talked about the challenges that we faced from Afghan 1. The new terrorist problem that we're facing is Afghan 2, the consequences of the fall of Kabul. And we've seen in the space of the last couple of years a significant increase in terrorist attacks within Pakistan. At this point in time, if we continue at the trajectory that the terrorist attacks are just taking place in this year, I mean, not at the end of the year yet, but if it continues at this trajectory and we get to the end of the year, then this year, 2025, will be the bloodiest year Pakistan has seen as far as terrorism is concerned. Year after year, we've been the largest victims of terrorism. So far, 92,000 lives lost. Even this year, we hold the record, the glorious record, of being the country where the single largest number of terrorist attacks are taking place and the single largest number of victims of terrorism exist. It is in this context that we passionately advocate for regional cooperation, international cooperation to combat terrorism. The US just 2 days ago called Pakistan a phenomenal partner in combating terrorism. We have managed to collectively thwart terrorist attacks within Pakistan and in capitals across the Western world as a result of Pakistan and those Western countries' close collaboration and CT efforts. Pakistan and India, since 2012, have had no collaboration on counterterrorism. The last collaboration we had was within the confines of this comprehensive dialogue that we now seek. Even in that cooperation, Pakistan shared information as far as LET is concerned and the terrorists that were going to attack their country, which resulted in India taking action against those groups. India never supported Pakistan in our concerns about the BLA and the Majid Brigade and the support that they provide for these organizations. Even now, we believe that the only way for us to secure the future of South Asia from terrorism, from the new threats that we're going to face, will ultimately be cooperation between India and Pakistan. Without talking to one another, if you even look at the 2019 attack, which is the last attack that resulted in planes in the air, between that day and this day, the April 22nd attack in Balkan, no communication, no intelligence sharing took place as far as terrorism is concerned. And finally, the fact that India cannot turn off the taps is untrue. They've turned off the taps in the past. 1948, 1949, I believe, when they shut Pakistan's water. They have been in violation of we then resulted in negotiating the Indus Water Treaty, dividing our sharing the resources. Within the mechanisms of the Indus Water Treaty, we had complaints that India was violating the Indus Water Treaty, was damming places they shouldn't dam, was building structures they shouldn't build, was building structures larger than they were allowed to under the treaty. But those cases, we were facing through the structure of this mechanism. What India has done is A, threatened to turn off the taps. And I want to repeat, just threatening to turn off the tap is a violation of the UN Charter. It's not about how much damage they have caused, just making this threat is a violation of international law. Now, they implement it in two ways. One way is the extreme scenario where Pakistan has already laid out that this would be an act of war. That would be damming the rivers that are right in accordance to this treaty, carving out new canals in those three rivers. The other way that they damage us, or they turn off the taps, is you only have to delay the release of the water from the so-called tap by up to a week. 1 week's delay or even less would mean that our crops die. And our agriculture economy is devastated, our people is devastated, our food security has connotations of those. So, it's not about their ability or capacity to turn off the taps. This precedent should never be allowed to set. We cannot allow the weaponization of water in this way. We are seeking a new dialogue with India, where we will make new promises with one another, and potentially sign new treaties. For that process to start, they need to respect all treaties. They need to take that decision. Take us back to the position that we were before this ceasefire, not just militarily, but also diplomatically.